it is really important that we begin to change the mindset of young people to know that your vote counts.
They don't understand that the legislative arm of government is actually a co-equal arm of government.
We have an incredible amount of potential.
Whatever it is I was doing, because of my personal DNA, it had to be of an international standard. Which is what, seriously speaking, is all about.
Welcome. This is Seriously Speaking. My name remains Adesuwa Anyunokwe. One of the things I like about my job, it gives me the opportunity to interview people and get behind their heads and help you to understand them a little better. My guest today did a job I would love to be. Well, as a fly, if you allowed. Allow me to be in the rooms where the powers that be are discussing things that affect the rest of us. And yet he can't share all of that with all of us because of the fact that he is a fly on the wall. Well, I have a guest on the show today, who is going to be throwing light into his life and times as a special advisor in this country at some point in time, and today as an egghead, what I describe as an egghead. If you don't go away, we'll get to meet my guest in a short while. Now, my guest, like I've said, is Dr. Reuben Abati. Well, I met him, first of all, on the pages of the newspaper, reading his columns on the backside and the inside, and editorial columns on Guardian newspapers. And I used to think, this guy is such a brilliant man. Now, I needed help from him at some point in time, so I reached out. Dr. Reuben Abati, can you please help me review this book? For free, of course. And he did it for me, I would never forget. But more recently, just before this new administration came into place, he decided he wanted some people to interview the then president, and he invited me. And I got a taste of one of the things that happens when you decide to hobnob with the powers that be. It's my guest to welcome on the show today, Dr. Reuben Abati. You see, Dr. Abati, it's nice to have you. I'm glad that this is the first TV show you're coming since you left that powerful office. It's nice to have you.
Thank you. Thank you for the invitation.
And thank you for accepting, because all I did was call you and say, look, I need you. You didn't even ask me why. You're such a nice person. Or you think it's time to speak.
I don't know what to say. But, you know, we come a long way. If you invite me to anything, I will honor your invitation.
I appreciate that. You know, sometimes people tell me, one of the things I got when I interviewed the then President Jonathan was that, this girl, she didn't ask him hard questions. I'm always doing things and make them look like it's easy. What did you think?
Well,
did you see what happened that time?
Yeah,
did you follow
the presidential media charge.
Yeah.
I remember
did you
quite
follow
well. Well, you know, people were very critical of those presidential media charts we organized. And they used to think that people had been pre-arranged, that the questions had been... But you were there, you participated in it, and you know, you can attest that at no time did we make any effort to stage manage. We wanted the president to go out there, you know, and talk to Nigerians and, you know, to discuss with journalists, sharp journalists, experienced journalists who ask him critical questions. Maybe that perhaps was responsible, you know, for some of the fallouts of those media chats, because there were people who said, no, you don't let the president go out like that. You have to prepare him. You have to stage manage. But we didn't stage manage. And thank you for bringing this up. It gives me an opportunity
to clear the air. Because, I mean, I was there. I remember people, when I was going, I was asking people, what questions do you want to ask the president? What do you want to say? And one of the topical questions, ask him about security, ask him about the girls who are missing, ask him about this. And I remember when the three of us gathered and said, so what are we going to do? So all of us had different questions. I said, okay, let us... I would never forget. I mean, anyway, there's no point going into that now. But I know how it felt to be misunderstood, right? I said, people who know how I interview know that I don't go about trying to barrage and kill people. Just get to the facts.
And then again, the thing is that when you sit with the president of a country and you are in an official setting or even as an interviewer, you know, the atmosphere is different. It can be intimidating for some people. But I guess you did well. People will criticize anyway.
I found him, I mean, sincerely, I've never said this. I found him to be a very gentle man, gentle man. And I found him to be somebody who actually wanted the best for the country. But guess what? I sensed that the man was tired. That is my thinking.
No, he wasn't tired. In fact, he was raring to go. And if he had won a second term in office, I believe that Nigerians will have seen a different President Jonathan.
Okay, but he didn't.
Because he gave the job his best shot. He tried his best. But you know how it is. Once you are president, because the presidency is a heartbeat of democracy, you are the main man. everybody is focusing on you, and, there will be criticisms. No matter how good your intentions may be, no matter what you do. But at the end of the day, posterity is posterity that judges leaders. And that is the test that every leader takes ultimately.
Will posterity judge you? Because I remember one of the things that you were very acerbic in your writing, very critical and all of that, before you became the special advisor on media to the president. And suddenly people felt that, like the Yorubas, we are starting to chop with them, so you're a little softer and all of that,
Well, I think there was, in my case, a problem in terms of the interpretation of my role in government. As you said, I'd been on this side, a critic, where you use the word acerbic. Okay, I took on every issue, and I criticized government. Now, at the time I took the appointment, you will remember that it was a very historic moment in Nigeria. A minority person had become president. The circumstances leading to his emergence were quite peculiar. And three, the first PhD holder, and all of that, and all of that, and all of that. And the government came to office at that time, on the coattails of enormous goodwill. Yeah. It was a time, to go into government, to serve government. And I was interested in having this experience in the public sector. So when Did
you worry about being compromised if you went into government?
No, well, the nature of the job, my job was to be presidential spokesman and to be media advisor and all of that. But when I went in there, people expected that the Reuben Abati of the pages of the newspaper would still be the same Reuben Abati in the villa. I think that's where the problem came from, because the editorial board, the newsroom, is quite different from working for a president. And the point I've always tried to make is that when you are a presidential spokesman, right, loyalty is very important.
Why did you accept the job in the first place? Why did you choose to remain on that side and putting governments on their toes?
Well, say curiosity, say adventure, say also, interest in supporting a government that emerged on the basis of certain specific historicity.
Yeah. So now you're going down in history now. I remember when you left, when the elections happened and your principal left, you wrote a piece, I titled it, "And the Phone Stopped Ringing." It's like the scales fell off your eyes, or was it expected?
No, the actual title was "The Phones No Longer Ring."
Okay.
And it was written in The Guardian. What simply happened was that after the president lost the election, the villa became ghost town.
The next day?
People vanished. They stopped coming around. After that initial party members, ministers, some government officials coming to visit the president, gradually, people just stopped coming.
After the phone call?
After the phone call, within 2-3 days, the place had become ghost town. And you sat down there and you could see how Nigerians react to powerlessness. Once power shifts, the people shift immediately. Okay, let's say that's not a problem. Then we left government. And I just discovered that my phones were no longer ringing.
Before you couldn't stop?
While we were in office and the government was still there, it was a problem managing phone calls, because journalists are calling, this person is calling, everybody is calling, and you are struggling, to keep up with the phone calls. And some people will complain, I've called him 3 times, he didn't pick my calls. You are struggling with all of that. Now, out of government, it suddenly dawned on me that the phones went quiet. For about 3 days.
Was that news for you?
Well, people have told me that, I should have expected it, that is the way it works, that's the way it goes. But if you don't experience it, you won't know how it is, okay? And one morning, after waiting and waiting, the phone was not ringing. I had to use phone A to call phone B. I thought that the phones were damaged, but the phones were actually in good shape. It's just that nobody wanted to call a yesterday man.
What are the lessons from that? Because that's what's important to me, even as a person, for you, and what you think others can learn from that.
Well, the obvious lesson, of course, is that you are as relevant as the office you occupy.
Is that good?
Well, I think it's a fact of life, because 2 weeks after I wrote that article, somebody who had also left government in a country in Eastern Africa wrote a similar article. And I think I posted it on Twitter to say that, it looks like this is just about life.
Now, could this be the reason why when people get into office or position of power, they just want to hold on to it and they don't want to leave it?
Well, I mean, nobody can stay in a position of power in government forever. It's a revolving door. You go there, you play your part, you leave. Some people come, they will also leave eventually. But I think in the process, each person plays his part, and then you learn your lessons, and then life continues. Life goes on.
Now, was it sad for you? Because you're telling me now, for example, I knew that my principal was ready to do even better, even though maybe even people were not satisfied, people voted otherwise.
Yeah, I think it was...
Are you sad? That
well, I think, I mean, all of us were really sad, you know, because somehow we thought that, you know...
you had spent enough money to...
no, it's not about money. You know, we were optimistic, you know, and we had this expectation that he will win at the end of the day, but he lost. But in any contest at all, somebody will win, somebody will lose, okay? And immediately he congratulated the winner.
Was that easy? You were a fly on that wall. Was that an easy thing to do?
Well, the day...
Were you there when he made that call?
Well, the day it was clear, the morning it was very clear that he had lost. He sent for me around 7 a.m. You know, he called me, he asked where I was. I said I was at home. He said, come quickly. I think this thing is up. So I went to him. He was already in his office before 8 o'clock. It usually took me about 10 minutes or so from my house to rush to the villa. So, and he said, well, Reuben, I think we've lost. So can you go and draft, you know, a concession statement for me? So I had my notebook, I took it, I said, what do you want to say? Because that's usually, because it's his opinion, not mine. So he says, okay, I want to say this, I want to say this, I want to say this. So I spend the whole day, you know, I spend the whole morning just working on it. I will take it back, you say you have added your own. No, don't add your own. This is what I want to say. Until I got it right. When the script was ready, he made the phone call.
He made the phone call.
And after the phone call, he said, okay, can you get your boys together? Let's record the statement. And that was how it went.
So did you feel sad? You've not answered that yet.
Well, I mean, seeing my boss, you know,
how was his
having worked so hard and then losing the election, I mean, you feel for him. And particularly the way everybody just ran away, you know, the way the villa became a ghost town. And even in the attitude of the staff, you know, you could see within 48 hours, they were already looking at you like, what are you people still doing here? You know, but he said, well, he will remain president until the last day. And you see that even after that concession, after that announcement and all that, he kept on working. And, you know, he was very confident, he was very courageous in the face of defeat. And he said, look, you guys don't worry. It's not the end of the world. I've played my part, support the new president, and life goes on.
Tell me, because I must go. Fortunately, I don't have enough time. One word that captures the future of democracy in Nigeria. Maybe 2 words.
Well, I mean, democracy has come to stay. Hope, people's power, people's confidence. You know, I think Nigerians will not joke with what they have seen that they can do under a democracy. The fact that an average man can just go to the poll and say, I will deal with this man. I will
we must defend our rights to vote.
The right to vote. And that is why electoral integrity, which is one of the legacies of President Jonathan, is something that Nigerians should continue to insist upon and that should be sustained.
Are you back on campus?
No.
No more for lectures, maybe politics, we don't know.
Not yet, we don't know yet.
Thank you very much for being my guest, and thank you also for watching, and we have to go now. Bye.